Hi again. A Christmas Eve Ghost is, how can I say, not one of my longest novels. In fact, it runs roughly one of my shortest. Again, it was written somewhere around about 2010, 2012. But I fancied writing a Christmas, something round about Christmas time. And it incorporates um, one of my favourite subjects, fantasy and spirituality, and I kind of like what I've done. And basically, it's about two people who live in the same address, two sisters actually, who have not spoken to each other for 50 years. And that's the hub of it, the quiddity of it. And it's about how they come together to celebrate Christmas. In actual fact, it was originally written about two brothers. And I think I got about three-quarters of the way through it and then changed it to two sisters, which I think actually worked better. But here it stands, two sisters. So I think the AI version, the way they discuss it, makes it out to be a lot better than what it actually is. But if you listen to it, you make the decision. Merry Christmas.
Welcome back to the deep dive.
Mhm.
Today we have before us, well, it's one of the most remarkable and detailed narrative accounts we've ever really looked at.
It really is.
We're setting the clocks back to Christmas Eve, 1881. We're going to plunge into this really richly drawn story. It uses the physical world almost like a canvas for decades of, well, emotional neglect.
Yeah.
It's a specific singular account, the Christmas Eve ghost.
And our mission for you, the learner, is absolutely critical today. We're not just, summarizing a plot here.
Yeah.
We are treating this text as almost like a factual report on human behavior, yes, but also on how the environment responds to that behavior.
Okay.
We need to analyze how this extreme, decades-long emotional conflict in just one household, how it culminated in events that were, well, by any standard, deeply supernatural,
Right.
and how the narrative structure itself seems to demand this specific kind of spiritual reckoning.
The atmosphere is just so key to unlocking this text, isn't it? We're in Victorian London, but, forget the cozy Christmas card
Yeah.
image. The source describes London just shrouded in this dense, dark, oily yellow fog. It's not just picturesque drizzle. This is isolating. It's almost suffocating.
It dictates everything.
Yeah, it dictates the emotional conditions of the city. It's like this ominous cloak thrown over Clerkenwell Central, a historical cocoon that perfectly isolates the tragedy happening inside number 7.
That's a great way to put it. The fog itself is practically a character. It forces this kind of sensory isolation, which really emphasizes the themes of, internal blindness, relying on instinct instead of sight.
Wow, good point.
Which is a theme that runs directly through our main character's personal crisis, as we'll see. The setting itself is telling us right from the start that visibility, physical and emotional, is limited. It's obscured.
Okay, so let's unpack this monumental conflict. At
Yeah.
the center, we've got these two women, twin sisters. They occupy the exact same physical space, number 7 Clerkenwell.
Right.
But they've somehow managed to live separate, mutually exclusive lives for, get this, half a century.
50 years. It's
Yeah.
extraordinary.
We start with Miss Edwina Kent.
Edwina, okay, so she's 70, and she's presented as this figure of rigid, almost brittle Victorian morality, at least, on the surface.
All right, the surface.
She's a publisher of Bibles. That profession alone projects a certain righteousness, doesn't it?
It certainly does.
The text emphasizes her physical look, too. Angular, underweight, these pale green eyes. She's a woman who practices, severe control over her person. You see it in her tight hair, her sharp demeanor.
But immediately, the author throws us this contradiction. It kind of defines her character, I think. She's returning home after work,
Yeah.
and she's secretly had some brandy.
Ah, there it is.
This private indulgence, it suggests that The whole external austerity thing. It needs constant internal maintenance, like a small hidden vice, making up for this big public pretense of perfection. And she's walking with difficulty, too.
Yes, that's crucial. Her physical deterioration is central to her current state. She's suffering from a recently diagnosed malady, it says, that's actively robbing her of her sight. And this failing vision has forced her to get a new oak-white cane. The source is very specific here, stressing that the cane lacks any marks of battle.
Meaning it's brand new.
Exactly. It suggests this yielding to necessity, this admission of a physical failing, is very recent, and probably highly unwelcome for someone like Edwina. It's an intrusion into her routine.
That detail about the cane, it feels so symbolic, doesn't it? For someone whose whole personality is built on this unyielding routine and absolute control. The cane is like the physical proof of her own internal failings finally catching up with her. It forces her to rely on other senses, especially her sense of smell, which the text says is acute.
And that heightened sense of smell guides her journey home. We see her stopping at Mr. Balding's perfume shop, taking in the scent of violets.
Right?
And then the really critical stop at Mr. Pathenfall's sweet shop. She knows the layout purely from memory and odor.
Amazing.
And her purchases are quite telling. 7 licorice roots and 30 double salts. Small, controlled pleasures, very logical, measured release of tension, maybe.
And her public philosophy on human suffering is also highly controlled, isn't it? She's an active humanitarian, president of the Dortington Committee, executive accountant for the Home for Wayward Girls.
Right. Very involved in the system of charity.
Exactly. She invests in systemic charity. Yet, she openly despises individual acts of kindness. She thinks they're pointless, specifically citing that any penny given to the poor goes straight toward gin, and more gin.
Oof. Yeah, that philosophical split is really the engine of her life, isn't it? She wants to solve poverty through law, through committees, which lets her keep this necessary emotional distance. She addresses the concept of suffering, but without having to actually engage with the messy, unpredictable reality of the suffering individual. And that emotional shield is absolutely crucial for understanding the wall she's built against her own sister.
Okay, now let's cross the street, figuratively speaking, to her twin, Miss Charlene Kent. They shared parents, obviously, but Charlene seems to represent everything Edwina refuses to be.
A complete contrast.
She's described as having a milder, more pleasant temperament. Time seems to have treated her differently, too. She lets her gray hair be natural. She seems younger somehow.
Yeah, the implication is maybe that the stress, the internal conflict, has physically aged Edwina more rapidly. Charlene seems softer.
And her philanthropic efforts are the total opposite of Edwina's. She's a retired accountant, yes, but she volunteers for the Mormon Trust. What do? They provide beds.
A physical, immediate necessity for the poor. Very direct.
Exactly. Her kindness is personal. It's visible. Paying for snow removal, feeding sugar to delivery horses, organizing toys for orphans. She engages directly with the individual needs of others.
And her journey home is contrasted so sharply with Edwina's solitary walk. Charlene takes a cab.
Right, there's a comfort there, an ease maybe that Edwina lacks.
And she returns home to, well, to unconditional love, really. Dash, her 3-legged King Charles Spaniel.
Ah, Dash. Tell us about Dash.
Dash is just a beautiful narrative choice. The dog was saved specifically because he was damaged, imperfect. Charlene apparently paid half a crown to stop him from being destroyed. She took him in after the young woman, May, who first rescued him, sadly died. And Dash's loyalty sleeping with her, loving her unconditionally. It's like the only fully realized, uncomplicated love Charlene permits herself.
That really highlights her capacity for accepting imperfection, doesn't it? Unlike Edwina.
Completely, and her domestic environment reflects that warmth. She's greeted by Miss Holly Pitkin, the housekeeper described as dazzlingly handsome, an Irish woman.
Okay.
There's ginger wine, there's gossip, there's comfort. The whole atmosphere around Charlene is built on connection, which is just the direct opposite of Edwina's self-imposed isolation.
Which brings us to the profound absurdity at the heart of this whole story.
It really is absurd.
These twin sisters, so fundamentally different in spirit, they jointly own and live in the same grand 5-floor family house. Number 7, built way back in 1740.
Huge place.
And for 50 years, they have maintained absolute silence toward one another.
50 years. Just think about the effort involved in that. The conscious moment-by-moment dedication required to maintain that level of, well, psychological warfare, really.
The author emphasizes they only communicate over fundamentals, and even then, they use their solicitors, like legal proxies for household matters.
It's almost A perfect, profound, and utterly unnatural manifestation of extreme social behavior. It's bizarre.
The ritualization of it is astonishing. They eat dinner in the same room, silently,
Yeah.
treating the other as if they're invisible.
Yeah, the source says Edwina's disinterest is so profound, it was as if only one person existed in the room. Just, wow.
And the external logistics are even more ridiculous. The poor parish vicar.
Oh, right. If he wants to visit, he has to call twice. Once for Charlene, then again for Edwina, on separate occasions.
Which is explaining that. It confuses everyone around them, including Miss Picken, the housekeeper. She explicitly says she'd rather see Christmas canceled than endure a long-term separation from her own sister. The staff, they see the madness clearly.
They do. And the house itself is described as the central victim of all this. It's a place of these palpable contradictions.
How so?
Well, there's warmth from the constant large, roaring fires the sisters require, maybe fueled by their public good deeds, ironically.
Right.
But also this intense structural frostiness. The tragedy is locked within its brick and mortar, you know? The physical environment itself is already suffering, just waiting for something to break.
That structural frostiness, it ensures the house is basically primed for the extraordinary events that follow. As they sit down for Christmas Eve dinner eating roast mutton, the physical laws governing their home just start to buckle under the strain of 50 years of repression.
Exactly. And the first phenomenon is the light. There are 4 large oil lamps on the sideboard, and suddenly they flare up so brilliantly.
Not just bright, but brilliantly.
Yes, an unnatural, impossible luminescence. It immediately forces the staff to take 3 of them away because it's just too much.
And what's fascinating here is the immediate, direct consequence of that unnatural brightness.
What happened?
The glare causes both sisters to glance, hesitantly and quickly, at each other. For the first time in decades,
Wow.
light forces them to see, both literally challenging Edwina's failing sight and metaphorically challenging their willful blindness toward each other. Ms. Pitkin rightly calls it an epoch-making moment.
That is huge. But the tension immediately gets compounded by sound, doesn't it?
It does. As the staff serves the steamed pudding, this loud, clear wailing of a baby is heard from the dark street outside.
A baby on Christmas Eve.
Right. Both sisters involuntarily stutter over their meal. It shows the sound did impact them, but then they instantly revert back to their routine, desperately ignoring the external cry for help.
So the source of their silence, their internal issue, is immediately challenged by the sound of new vulnerable life from outside. Interesting.
But the anomalies don't stop there. When they retire for the night, the heat becomes unbearable.
The heat.
Yeah, the fires are roaring. The beds are described as roasting, far beyond what you'd expect from the coal. Edwina actually checks her covers to see if they're smoldering.
Good heavens. That oppressive heat. It feels like the physical manifestation of all that suppressed anger, doesn't it? The tension reaching a literal boiling point.
Exactly. And that blue ethereal light the text mentions. The candles throughout the house burning with the brilliance of 7.
Yeah.
It's unnaturally bright, making everything hyper-visible. It's like the house itself is rejecting the darkness, rejecting the emotional coldness they've imposed on it.
The physical structure is demanding illumination, demanding transparency, rejecting the internal temperature of decades of resentment.
So with the house actively fighting this internal darkness, the catalyst for change arrives. Edwina, slightly tipsy from playing whist.
The brandy effect, perhaps?
Perhaps she stumbles upon a wicker basket on the doorstep. Her first thought is it's a stray dog, which is maybe a sign of her sister Charlene's influence creeping in.
Maybe.
Until she registers the shape.
And inside.
An infant girl. Shannon. Wrapped neatly with this scrawled note asking for help. My name is Shannon. Please look after me.
Wow. So despite her whole philosophy against individual charity, the gin, and more gin thing.
Right. She acts instantly. Though maybe not out of pure kindness, the text suggests it's more urgency and self-preservation. She's worried about being seen by the neighbors.
Still, she takes action. What does she do?
She immediately delegates the problem, wakes up Miss Pitkin, thrusts the baby at her.
Just hands it over.
Pretty much. Her justification is all defensive. She has no experience, but she could not leave it to perish in the cold and the dark on her doorstep. On tonight of all nights. It's this sudden, necessary break in her whole philosophical routine. Profound, really. She prioritizes life over her rigid principle.
Okay. So Miss Pitkin, though she's childless, takes charge. She agrees to heat milk, care for the baby. What happens when Charlene finds out?
Miss Pitkin informs Charlene later, and Charlene's reaction is pure, skeptical logic. Babies are not found on Christmas Eve.
Skeptical.
And both sisters, in their separate conversations with Miss Pitkin, they revert instantly to their shared assumption that the baby is just a calculating burden left by some poor mother trying to offload responsibility onto wealthy women.
Oh, that's sad. Their immediate shared cynicism, even when faced with a foundling on Christmas Eve, it's a really depressing testament to how fractured their perspective on the world has become.
It really is.
Yeah.
And just as Charlene retreats to her room, the house continues its rebellion.
More anomalies.
Yes. She compliments Miss Pitkin on the first-class effort with the Christmas decorations. She just assumes the scaff finally got around to putting them up.
And they hadn't.
Exactly. Miss Pitkin and Mary, the maids, they're stunned. They confirm they had absolutely no time. The tree was still out back. The decorations, green paper chains, festive cutouts, ribbons, they're appearing miraculously.
Where?
In both sisters' rooms and the main hall, seemingly popping into existence wherever they are not actively looking.
That's incredible. The house is literally decorating itself because the two people living there can't bring themselves to celebrate the season of peace and joy.
It's like the arrival of the child acted as some kind of internal spiritual ignition switch. The house is manifesting the joy they've suppressed for 50 years.
This culmination of impossible events, the heat, the light, the baby, the self-decorating house, it finally forces the physical confrontation, doesn't it?
It does. The sisters find themselves in the unnaturally glowing hallway, probably drawn by the commotion or the light.
And their immediate reaction.
Their defense mechanism just snaps straight to venom. Edwina, whose sight has apparently been momentarily restored by the intense light, viciously attacks Charlene, referring to her as this person and a talking maggot.
Ouch. Vicious. 50 years of emotional acid just finally pouring out.
Exactly, and the author uses this explosive moment to finally hint at the long-ago trauma, though the insults are traded through Miss Pitkin, like they're using her as a conduit.
Still refusing to speak directly, even now.
Even now. But they clearly reference the long-ago drama, how Charlene's unspecified actions diverted Edwina's life course, and how their mother died as a broken heart. It's this astonishing moment of high emotional drama, just fueled by perfectly preserved bitterness.
But the conflict gets stopped, right? By Miss Pitkin?
Yes, by the person who has been quietly absorbing their decades of madness, Miss Pitkin. Seeing the magical chaos, the sisters' raw hatred, she just reaches her limit.
What does she do?
She holds up her hands, silences them,
Yeah.
demands they make peace.
Her intervention is so powerful because she's the one who articulates the supernatural context that the sisters are desperately trying to ignore. She makes the connection explicit.
How does she put it?
She basically lists everything. A child has appeared to us on Christmas Eve. Our lamps are dazzling. Our fires are too warm. Festivities have miraculously and magically appeared. And now your house is blessed with this glorious symbol of peace and forgiveness.
Laying it all out.
Yes. And then the challenge. Can you not make your peace, madams, or will you take this pretense to your graves? She's essentially telling them, look, God, or something, has sent a miracle. You are now required to act humanely.
That moment of clarity from the housekeeper, combined with the spectacle of the glowing, self-decorating hall.
Yeah.
It finally forces some kind of submission.
Do they reconcile then and there?
Not quite. They agree the baby can stay for a day or two, which is, a small step, but monumental for them.
Yeah.
A step back toward shared responsibility. And then they retreat to their intensely hot, oven-like rooms. The stage is perfectly set for the spiritual consequence.
Which leads us straight into the revelation of the dark and tragic family secret. A history so suppressed that even the staff, Miss Pitkin included, had no idea.
What was it?
The sisters, Edwina and Charlene. They were originally triplets.
Triplets. Wow.
The third sister was Constance, and the source describes her as exceptionally more beautiful, possessing the three graces: beauty, charm, and grace. She was the ideal, apparently, the center of attention.
And that perfection, it created a terrible isolation for the twins, didn't it?
It seems so. While Edwina and Charlene loved Constance fiercely, the text says Constance's constant admiration by men made her sisters feel stammering and clumsy by comparison. So the twins, already close, maybe retreated even further into this shared space of inadequacy, while Constance occupied this brilliant, separate sphere.
And the physical proof of this frozen grief, this tragedy, is right there in the house.
Yes. The most cheerless room in the entire house is Constance's old room, a large, dark, unpainted fourth-floor bedroom overlooking the back garden.
What's it like?
It's plainly furnished, dusty, the mirrors are covered in black crepe, and the clocks have all been stopped. It's a room where time and reflection were literally killed 50 years ago. It's the scar tissue of the family tragedy, left untouched.
So, as the twins fall asleep in their overheated rooms that night, what happens?
They experience a simultaneous dream, or maybe a vision, a shared spiritual experience designed, you could argue, to bypass their conscious defenses, their decades of denial.
Okay, what do they see?
The vision begins with the spirit of the baby, Shannon, ascending from her crib downstairs. She's connected to her physical body by a fine, iridescent, and silver-colored thread.
A silver cord. Classic.
Exactly. And as the spirit rises up to the fourth floor, it grows and transforms into the radiant, adult Constance, waiting for them in her old, dark room. That thread signifies the connection between the physical, abandoned infant and this powerful, forgiving spirit.
And the sister spirits, their wraiths, they join her there.
Yes. Constance addresses them tenderly, calling them my sisters. She states her purpose clearly. She is there to perform a miracle. She confirms that God has noticed their selfless actions over the years, despite their personal bitterness towards each other.
Which leads to the profound confession and absolution moment.
Right. The twins, decades later, finally admit their hidden guilt. They say, "We allowed you to die." But Constance immediately forgives them for not returning home with my medicine. She dismisses their youthful mistakes, explaining her death was actually God's will, not their fault at all. There was no error, Edwina, no mistake. She lifts that burden of blame that has been the absolute foundation of their 50-year feud.
And then the critical revelation.
Yes. Constance confirms she is the baby, Shannon, returned by Providence, specifically to mend the rift between them and grant them peace. Her goal is simple: to help them remember how you once were, before all the bitterness became their entire identity.
But the reunion is conditional, isn't it? There's a price.
There is. Constance demands that they release the anger, the resentment that has sustained their feud. And the author introduces this phenomenal narrative device here, the literal physical manifestation of 50 years of their bitter, unspoken thoughts.
This is where the story becomes genuinely chilling, almost like spiritual horror.
Absolutely. Constance manifests the essence of your thoughts, all those nasty, silent judgments and assumptions, into a physical, black, opaque, malignant ball of gloom. This isn't just a metaphor in the text. It's presented as a tangible, physical representation of their emotional debt.
And the sensory details around this gloom, they're astonishingly specific, aren't they? And deeply symbolic of the spiritual damage they've inflicted on themselves and the house.
They really are. It surrounds them with a foul smell left after a battle, and it sounds like the growling of 1,000 mouths. That sound. It conveys the ceaseless, suppressed violence of their unspoken conflict over all those years.
But the taste,
Yeah.
that's the detail that really sticks with you.
Charlene later confesses it tasted like chocolate under seawater.
Chocolate under seawater, what does that even mean?
The source explicitly equates that flavor with violence and damnation. But why chocolate? Chocolate is usually a comfort, right? A pleasure. To mix that comforting taste with the flavor of stagnant, violent decay seawater, it's like saying their hatred, their bitterness, had become their perverse, twisted form of comfort, their dark indulgence. And it was polluting their very souls.
That's deeply unsettling. Constance explains that this malignant matter, the sum total of all their unaddressed assumptions and vile thoughts, had collected everywhere.
Yes, in every pocket, floorboard, and brick of the house. Saturating and dethroning this gay house, as the text puts it. The sheer weight of it makes the sisters weep uncontrollably, forcing them to finally feel the anguish they had avoided for 50 years. This anguish, their tears, that's the price of forgiveness.
And the mechanism for getting rid of it, it's ritualistic.
Very. Constance directs them to recite the Lord's Prayer. And through the force of their prayer and their weeping, the dark matter is compressed. From a surrounding cloud down to the size of a football, then a marble, then just a final silhouette. This compression forces them to feel the decades of anger one last time before it's gone.
And the final act is Charlene allowing this marble of compressed negativity to be sucked away.
Yes, sucked away into the earth, where the malignant matter apparently wishes to be reborn. It's a powerful statement. Even deep-seated resentment doesn't just vanish. It returns to the earth, seeking new life, unless it's actively purged through forgiveness and release.
And Constance's final promise, how will they know it was real?
Simple. They will know the vision was real if the baby, Shannon, smiles at them when they awake on Christmas morning.
So they awaken Christmas morning. And the confirmation is immediate. The spiritual cleansing had direct physical consequences.
Instantaneous. Edwina's personal miracle addresses her focus on outward appearances and her recent inconvenient reality of failing sight.
What happened?
She wakes up and immediately realizes her vision has been restored to fullness. Just like that. She doesn't need the cane anymore, the one she'd only acquired a few months prior.
Wow. The narrative choice there is so powerful. The person who was willfully blind to her sister's pain focused purely on external rigid law. She's granted functional sight again, signifying maybe her new capacity for internal clarity, seeing things as they are.
Exactly. Meanwhile, Charlene's miracle addresses her focused, compassionate action and her dearest companion, Dash.
What happens with Dash?
She lifts Dash, her little three-legged King Charles Spaniel, and discovers he has grown a complete functional fourth hind leg.
No way.
Yes, the author gives us Charlene's stunned reaction.
Oh my word. Oh my word. It's pure astonishment and joy.
That healing of Dash, it feels like a direct reward for Charlene's decades of unconditional love, her acceptance of imperfection.
Precisely. Her charity, which was always hands-on, focused on mitigating individual suffering, it's physically validated through the healing of the little companion she saved. And the emotional healing between the sisters, is it just as immediate?
It seems so, complete. They rush to the fourth-floor hallway significantly, the site of Constance's room, the locus of the trauma.
Yeah.
They meet, they link arms. Edwina uses the affectionate nickname Edie. They joyfully embrace. 50 years of unshed tears finally flow. The squabble, the feud, it's over. Functionally, emotionally, completely ended.
What about the servants? Mary and Miss Pitkin.
They come upstairs, probably wondering where the baby is, and find Shannon gone from the basket. Then they're stunned to find the sisters together, smiling, actually speaking to each other naturally. Imagine their shock.
But the house itself, that's the ultimate testament to the spiritual change, right?
Oh, absolutely. We transition from the house merely decorating itself
To what?
to impossible blooms. The ceiling is now covered in hundreds of impossibly fragrant, fresh flowers for the season. Roses, daffodils, lilies, orchids, things that shouldn't be blooming in December in London. They're interwoven with the spontaneous decorations from the night before, and they're apparently making gentle popping noises as they arrange themselves.
Popping noises.
Yeah, like magic settling into place. This is nature reacting to the release of all that negative energy. Where the black gloom had saturated and dethroned the house, now vibrant, fragrant life, impossible life takes root. The house is physically celebrating its own renewal.
And the kitchen?
Even the kitchen is filled with the impossible scent of a Christmas feast, turkey, cranberry, cinnamon. Though absolutely nothing is cooking, the environment is just overflowing with abundance and joy.
So the sisters first act together, now reconciled.
It's a collaborative philanthropic effort. They immediately declare they will adopt Shannon. And they decide to give her Constance's old room, which is presumably now radiant, not dark. Charlene sums it up perfectly. It is Christmas Day, Miss Pitkin, the Lord's Day, when wishes are granted and favors deepened and forgiveness is established.
The spirit of reconciliation then ripples through the whole household.
Immediately. Miss Pitkin's younger sister, Lucy, remember they'd quarreled over a bonnet.
Right.
Lucy arrives, covered in snow, specifically to apologize. And the twin sisters welcome her warmly, setting the example of mending familial bonds for the staff too. The healing spreads outwards.
And the practical blessings continue as well in this newly joint philanthropic household.
Yes. Mary, the housemaid, gets a significant promotion. She's made nursemaid and designated future governess for Shannon with increased wages.
That shows the immediate positive impact of the sisters combining their charitable impulses, doesn't it? Edwina's systemic approach to wealth management, perhaps, combined with Charlene's focus on individual elevation.
Exactly. A perfect fusion of their strengths finally working together, and the source material concludes with their legacy. The sisters, having found peace late in life, join forces. They pursue this combined vision of a healthier, cleaner London for the less fortunate. Understanding finally that their true purpose only became possible when their internal conflict ended.
They learned, and this feels like the ultimate lesson of the source text, that true love rests in numbers, and if that number is more than one, then the spirit and joy of Christmas can occur every day.
Beautifully put. The supernatural intervention was necessary to demonstrate that collaboration, that moving beyond the self, unlocks true joy and potential. And Shannon, who is Constance returned, eventually inherits the house. She embodies the fusion of the original triplets' grace with the twins' hard-won compassion, and she becomes revered for her own amiable and philanthropic attitude. The healing continues through generations.
So, wrapping up this deep dive, This single extraordinary narrative really demonstrates the spectacular lengths the universe, or providence, as Constance put it, might go to just to enforce harmony.
Absolutely. The sheer severity of the 50-year feud required the most specific, extreme anomalies, didn't it? The lights forcing them to see, the heat forcing discomfort out into the open, and those miraculous physical restorations. Edwina's sight, Dash's leg, each miracle perfectly targeted.
And the profound takeaway for you, the learner listening today, it really lies in the mechanism of that spiritual cleansing, I think. The narrative explicitly states that the 50 years of bitter, unspoken thoughts didn't just damage the relationship, they literally manifested as a malignant, tangible ball of gloom that had to be physically purged.
Right. It wasn't enough to just shake hands and say sorry. They had to confront and release the physical weight of that stored resentment, paying the price in tears, in anguish.
And the author's choice to give that negativity a sound, the growling mouths a smell like battle, and that specific bizarre taste of chocolate under seawater, that perverse, violent comfort.
It just underscores the profound and physical toll that internal conflict takes, not just on one's own life, but on the very environment one inhabits. The house itself was sick with their resentment.
Which really raises an important question for you, the learner, to consider as you step away from this detailed deep dive into 1881 London.
What's that?
If 50 years of unspoken resentment could physically manifest as a dark, tangible cloud within that house, what unseen emotional baggage might you be accumulating in your own life, in your relationships right now? Baggage that is subtly, or maybe not so subtly, affecting the physical environment, the atmosphere, and the people around you.
That's a powerful thought to end on. Something definitely to ponder as you seek your own moment of spiritual clarity, perhaps without needing quite such dramatic intervention.
Indeed. Join us next time for another deep dive.